2, 1. We're live.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Cooler Heads podcast with me, Curious HVAC guy, Bill Russell, and our other hosts here, Brett Fretzel and Adam Muffich. We are all excited to be here, and today we have a super duper special guest. It's my personal life coach, Austin Jennings. And real quick rundown, today we're going to be talking about pessimism, optimism, and sort of self-talk, self-sabotaging talk. And we're going to see how long we can kind of stick to that topic before we get sidetracked by something else. But real quick, a while ago, I've known Austin for about going on a year and a quarter, year and a half-ish. And about a year and a half ago, I realized that my life wasn't really going the way I wanted it to go, and I needed to make some changes. And at that time, I presumed that all the things that I figured needed to be changed in my life were all outside things that influenced me from the outside. And I started to think, you know what, maybe I'm part of the problem. Maybe the way I see things is part of the problem. Maybe the way that I'm acting is influencing the people around me and affecting my immediate environment. And that is causing these things that at the time were bothering me and going wrong, and all these various things I had in my life, which were marital issues, relationship issues with my daughter, work-life balance, nutrition, physical health, like all these things at once. I'm like, this is just not going the way I wanted. And it started off with more or less like my physical health, my fitness, my exercise, and my diet. And I was on Facebook looking for I believe I was just looking for like a nutritionist, an online trainer to kind of help me get my fitness goals restructured and oriented and on track. And then I met Austin. We had a great conversation. I hired him, and within a year, I made what I would deem pretty great progress. I went from, just the physical side of things. I went from weighing 252 pounds. I got down to 195. I got in great shape. I'm kind of, finding my maintenance level and various things like that. That's besides the point. But along that journey, along that physical journey, that physical transformation, the mental aspect of it, the things I learned along the way, as far as how to recognize. The biggest thing for me is recognizing patterns, which would always get me into a frustrated state of mind and get me back into my old ways of thinking. Just to name one of the many things that I've learned along the way. I could get my journal out and kind of ramble on for a little while, but we don't have time for all that. But long story short, it's been a fantastic journey. Austin's stuff will be in our links, his bio, or it'll be in our show notes, the links, the bio, everything you need to find Austin, to hook up with him, to see what he's all about, to have a conversation, will all be in the description of the live stream and the podcast, assuming that Brett gets that all handled for us, which I assume he will.
I did. I got it up on the YouTube for sure. Facebook was giving me the middle finger, so I put it in the comments.
Fantabulous. So without further ado, let's bring Austin on and let him introduce himself, give a little bit of his background, what he's done, and why he is who he is.
I appreciate that, Bill. Yeah, it was about a little over a year ago we started working together. I think it was September of last year, and yeah, it was a fitness. Reaching out for some fitness coaching and stuff like that. But I always know, like you were talking about, it all boils down to like the pessimistic and optimistic. And that's not necessarily always the words I use, but it always boils down to our emotions. So that's a massive thing. So as far as my story goes, though, I started out like with a pretty financially set family for the most part. We had a pretty good living as far as that goes, but the emotions of everything were terrible. My dad was a drinker. He screamed constantly. My mom has schizophrenia. So that caused all kinds of problems that we had no idea were actually stemming from those deeper issues. We just knew she would scream at the top of her lungs, scream suicidal things, all kinds of crazy banter, all kinds of stuff. So slowly but surely, develop a couple negative patterns yourself, and slowly but surely, I realized that I didn't have like happiness in me. Like there wasn't a lot. Like it'd come out as a kid, but it just wasn't in there deep. So slowly but surely, you go through your teenage years, you start developing and growing and moving through life and stuff. And it was just getting worse and worse and worse. I found some happiness and hobbies, things like that, playing guitar, learning all that kind of stuff. Obviously, trying to focus on women, trying to focus on girls like you're a teenager and have fun. But there's always that underlying of pain throughout the whole process. So slowly but surely, I moved into my early 20s, and the continuous problems of emotions like deep depression, manic swings, suicidal ideations pretty much daily, and severe anxiety were just plaguing my existence that whole time. So, what comes next? You get a woman, have them move in immediately, and then get them pregnant. I thought. Turns out, through that whole process, she got pregnant by somebody else, and my child wasn't biologically mine. And that was like the crack in my psyche finally. That was like all the stacking effect of my, previous story. And then the cracking of that was the tipping point. So everyone has their tipping point in their life, usually where they say, that was like enough was enough. I'm either done or I'm starting. That was my done. I was just going to kill myself. It'd been enough. It stacked enough. The stacking effect, it just fell over. I wasn't willing to pick up the pieces and start over. So drinking, suicidal thoughts constantly led up to that point. Obviously, I didn't go through with it. That's a long story. But on the other side of that moment, of that decision that I almost created a massive hole in my family's life, I didn't. Because I had been gone for a year for my daughter, who wasn't biologically mine. Stepped back into her life after that, and then I realized I don't know if you guys swear in this podcast or not.
No. Yeah.
I was a fucking mess. I'm about to be a fucking mess coming out of this suicidal fucking almost problematic process in my life that was not going away. I almost brought that into her life. And I was like, no, you had a moment where God or something, whatever spoke to you, whatever that feeling inside my gut, maybe it's intuition, your gut, humanity, said, you gotta live, you gotta figure this out. And then I realized there's more to that. I have to be happy. I have to be joyous. If I'm going to be a dad, if I'm going to step back into her life, if I'm going to be dad again, obviously there's a long story in that, about a year process there. But if I'm going to be dad again, I got to be happy too. I'm not going to give this child this mess. And that started the whole process. I was like, this child doesn't deserve this mess. And the meaning I gave to that child was, she's not biologically mine. She's not blood mine. She was given to me by this world to give me love, to give me passion, to give me that feeling in my heart of like, oh, this is how you love another being. If you can hear my voice chokes up because I just love her so much, because she was like a gift that gave me the ability to see, oh, I can love beyond blood. I can love beyond circumstance. I can love beyond pain. I can love beyond all of that, because it's so much. Even a strong man knows the only thing he's driven by love. Why would he kill for his family? Because he loves them so deeply. Why did he kill that side of me? So I could find out how to like show her the love that I felt for her, but I couldn't show it to her. It was in there, cast by so many filters, of just the world and the hate and all the pain. So that's why I started my process. And then I realized I had to figure out some things. I did spirituality. I took plant medicine. I took tons of different kinds of mushrooms. Like I didn't take quite ayahuasca, but I went through those processes of deep healing in those ways. Tried therapy, that didn't work. Wouldn't take pills. And I finally boiled down to realize that whole system of therapy, of pills, of everything is failing people. I'm watching circles of people in spirituality taking plant medicine after plant medicine ceremonies, constantly trying to say this is going to heal them, and everyone's a wreck. So there had to be another way. And I looked into, like, on the spirituality journey, you start getting into YouTube, and there's tons of YouTube clips together, and motivational speakers started to speak on some of them. And I heard a rough voiced dude that said things that made a lot more sense to me than the other ones. And I kept finding, like, who's this rough voiced dude? And it turned out it was Tony Robbins. And I went to start diving into his work, and deeply diving into his work. And then it started to realize, like, I could actually find happiness that I didn't think was there. Went to some seminars.
Real quick, by pills, you mean, like, are you talking like antidepressants and like trying to get, a doctor or a psychologist to fix your problems chemically?
Like, I wouldn't. Yeah. So I went to a therapist, and the first thing she pretty much did was give me like 2 sheets of paper that were like, hey, fill these out real quick. And they were like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are your on a line, do you feel positive, negative, positive, negative? A very simple sheet. And she immediately said, okay, cool, we'll give you these pills. This will straight. You have manic, bipolar, depressive, this and all this. You can. And I'm like, I already established that. But she said, here's some pills. The fact that she was willing to just diagnose me like that so quickly made me realize, like, oh, they don't know if those pills are going to work. They don't know if I have a chemical imbalance. They don't know those things they didn't take blood tests. They didn't do anything. So I was already had been into health and nutrition and took a deep dive into the fact that pills hadn't worked for almost anybody. Pills were such a failing industry that it was causing suicide to go up. And I wouldn't take those pills. So yeah, they were trying to give me pills for depression, anxiety, and I just wouldn't take those pills. So I just started down the journey of a different way of doing things, which is a deeper look at psychotherapy, 6 human needs, strategic intervention therapy, and really digging deep on the actual structures of us. So
that's funny that you were talking about Tony Robbins, because I've been kind of like watching him from afar, and like some of the vibes you get from like watching some of his seminars, you're like, oh, it's kind of like hocus pocus stuff. I don't know if I buy into it, but
kind of like woo woo sort of new age healing. And yeah, I felt the same way the first time I seen Tony Robbins. I'm like, yeah, I don't know how this guy's convincing everybody to give him tons of money, but somehow he's got everybody hooked. But like I've read some of his books, his materials. Like I don't know, the thing that was kind of offsetting for me with the Tony Robbins experience was the big crowds, and like I don't know, there was just something kind of off-putting to me for it. But reading his material is where I really connected with his messages, and that's, for me anyway, that's where I was like, it was good stuff for me.
See, my problem is that like I just can't deal with like what I refer to as toxic positivity, where it's so much positivity where I'm just like, oh, just shut the fuck up already. Like it's just, it can be a lot, you know what I mean? And I don't know. I've never been able to jive with stuff like that. Like the self-help, the Tony Robbins, you know what I mean? I mean, everyone has, what they dig, you know what I mean? What they get into and stuff, but I'm not knocking it. It's not for me. Right.
Well,
Yeah.
And if I could speak to that really fast, see, honestly, anything that's like a big hype up or anything like that, yeah, I wouldn't recommend anyone go to anything that's just a big hype up. That's the thing, though, is all you see is a big hype up from him on the outside. All you see is that kind of stuff. You don't see all of the stuff that when you do his trainings, when you do his inner work, and you actually start to dive into it, you realize he has actually been studied by some of the top therapists in the world. His teachings and tools and stuff on the actual therapy side of things have created massive changes in people with schizophrenia, with bipolar, with all disorders and addictions and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, the big crowds, the hype up, the jumping up and down, it seems from an outside perspective like that is just a fun concert to go have some fun at. But there's actually a real base in your physiological psychology behind that. When you move your body, when you jump up and down, when you're in a peak state, when you bring up the music, when you bring up the vibe, when you're around a lot of people, when you have social interaction, when you have connection from other people, when you start to meet those deeper needs, and you start to actually show the system something more than just a logical statement of, hey, this will help you. Like in a therapy, when you're jumping up and down, moving your body, it allows a different level of learning, a different level of knowledge to enter the system. So what you see is the pump up, yeah. But then in between all of that, they sit there and they go do the deep work to make sure you can rewire your nervous system, rewire your psychology, and find that deep happiness and fulfillment inside of you. But to get that wired into your nervous system, that whole process is a part of the whole thing. But from the outside perspective, yeah, absolutely. It looks like a massive pump up, a massive just, go pay a guy up and down.
I would almost compare that to like the Tony Robbins pump up from the outside, like the 30-second clip you might see on like TikTok or something, as to like some of these mega churches where they're like, and you're being saved, and you're being saved, and he's like knocking all over these people over, and they're all speaking in tongues, and people are like, what the hell is this? They don't want to get into it, but little do they know, like maybe behind the scenes or something, that clip is taken out of context, and there is an actual good message somehow in there. It's just like the context of it is a little bit different. But anyway, I don't want to make this a whole Tony Robbins discussion. We already got distracted from our main subject, our main topic here, which is self-talk and optimism and pessimism. One of the things that I've really, really taken away from my experience working with Austin is first it's pattern recognition, but we can save that topic for another time. Self-talk. Like self-talk is really something I wasn't aware of until I was aware of it. You know how you just get in these patterns of like referring to yourself like, I'm just not good at that, or like, I don't know, I'm just big boned, I'm always gonna be fat, or I'm just an angry guy. I can't smile, I'm always monotone. All these things that like I would have described myself as. And it's sort of like, I view it as like, if you say it enough, yeah, I mean, absolutely, you're going to be that way. You say you're fat enough, yeah. You say you're depressed enough. You say you're not happy. You don't smile. You can't do this. You can't do that. You know, the old saying goes is whether you say you can or you can't, you're right. And that's, I think, at the very base of it, that's what it is.
I do that shit. I do that all the time. Like when I'm stressed out and I'm busy as hell at work, I just like I catch myself all the time, like muttering to myself, "I can't do this shit anymore." You know, like almost daily. Like when I get into that stressful situation, that's like one of my go-to phrases. I can't do this shit anymore.
And I just want to speak to that on actually what Brett said earlier too. That continual, always happy, always that. What do you call it? Toxic
positivity.
Toxic positivity. Yeah, that's a problem. So if you're sitting there walking through life being like, everything's great. Oops, stepped on a nail. That's happy. That's amazing. Glad I stepped on a nail. Yeah, you're fucked in the head. Now, as far as Adam says, though, every time we sit there and talk shit to ourselves, we do realize, like he just said, right, that we usually have something we say consistently every day. It's almost like a scripted thing we say to ourselves. Why would we have that though if it hasn't helped yet? If we say to ourselves like, oh, you're just a fuck up, you're mean to your kid again, you're gonna do this at work again, I can't fucking do this anymore. Well, you're gonna go and do it again anyway the next day. You're gonna probably go. Has the pattern continued of you being mean to your kid, of you hating your work, of you being upset, sad, miserable, whatever, suffering, whatever the fucking word you want to use for it? What is it? If that pattern's continued, then the same thing you're doing is continuing that pattern. The continuation of that pattern only comes from inside of us. The outside world doesn't matter. Inside of us does, though, because our perception of the outside world comes through these two lenses. These two lenses only filter that through what's going on in our mind, what's going on in our mouth, and what's going on in our body. And what's going on in there is a pretty consistent script for most people. When you break that script, that's what Bill said, pattern recognition. Well, optimism is just recognizing what could be good. Pessimism is just recognizing what could be bad. If you're consistently recognizing what could be bad all day, then I want anyone that's listening to ask themselves, how's my life? Am I happy or sad? If I had to answer just a blind person, just a blind study real fast, no one is going to know about this inside of my own head. If I had to say, am I happy or am I sad most of the time? What's the duration I live in? If it's sad, we got to flip that script.
Mm-hmm.
I heard like pessimism and like looking at the possible negative outcomes on things could be like a defense mechanism that you have, because you know you've had bad things happen to you and you want to catch them before it happens to you to kind of minimize the effects of it, you know.
100%.
I'd like to add on to that real quick too. Like I've always thought as my pessimism or my like negative mindset maybe even is like, well, you know, it kind of goes back to being a mechanic. Like if I can find everything that's wrong, then you know, I can fix it or prevent it from getting worse, or you know, prevent a bigger problem. So I've always thought maybe that translated over to like how I just view everything in life, where I'm just like, well, this is wrong, that's wrong, this is going to be wrong, or that could be wrong, or this is going to get worse. And I've kind of had to learn to like, you got to separate that. Like I'm not always working on machines where that sort of mindset would be beneficial. And in life, it's not always the best thing to like, I'm making pancakes. But fucking this pan doesn't even work. This pan doesn't flat on the stove, or you know, something stupid like that. There's kind of a cutoff point where I'm not saying it's okay to view things negatively, but in my mind, going through life of always trying to find problems in machines and being, you know, having a preventative maintenance sort of mindset maybe, versus I'm just at home. I don't need to walk around and find everything that's wrong in my life when I'm at home.
Absolutely, man. The patterns we run every day for work absolutely bleed into our daily life. I mean, think about being like a lawyer. All you're doing every day is trying to look and interrogate and figure out what's wrong with that person, what they're doing wrong. How am I right? How am I right? Imagine a lawyer going home and being a husband. What is the process he goes through often? Interrogation.
Yeah. Objection, Your Honor. Like, oh no, you're at home.
And that's not his fault. That's because he hasn't become conscious, or he or she has not become conscious of that pattern yet, of saying, oh, I run that every day. I run that all day. My brain is constantly trying to find patterns because that's what life was. It was patterns of where the deer, patterns of the river runs this way and the fish go that way, patterns of, oh, every single year in the fall, I can pick those berries in that one patch. We figured out patterns to stay alive. We still do it today. We're just in a real complex environment.
Isn't it also kind of prioritizing like what, really what is bad, like what's going to cause you to have a bad day? Like, Bill, you said, the pan being off or whatever, right? I mean, that's minimal. Like, I don't, I know we talked about upbringing and stuff, and it depends on how your upbringing was, right? Is how you prioritize things. Like, a quick story. I went to California to go teach, and I bought a burrito from 7-Eleven. I went upstairs to my hotel room, and I realized I didn't have a microwave. So I got creative and put the burrito in between two pieces of paper and a clothes iron. And my boss actually called me. She's like, "What are you doing for dinner tonight?" And I sent her the picture of that. She's like, "You're not fucking eating that." I'm like, "Why not?" It's still gonna make me full. I'm still gonna sleep good. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
I guess it's all about like prioritizing what's really gonna fuck up your day. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
oh, I put on a red shirt. Fuck, my day is screwed. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you, though, Brett. Like in that moment, as you're sandwiching this 7-Eleven burrito, that's probably going to give you all crazy diet, most amazing diarrhea later. Like as you're cooking this under this iron, like what were you thinking? Where you're like, oh man, my life is shit. I'm eating a fucking burrito off an ironing board, or were you like, hey, this is not so bad. I got a nice hotel. I'm in California. I'm fucking killing it at my job. Like, what was your mindset in that situation?
So when teaching is exhausting. So like by the end of the day, and Austin, I don't know how much like public speaking and stuff you do, like hours on end or whatever, but like after 6 or 8 hours of just talking, I'm fucking tired. I mean, your brain is just toast. So I didn't, I got invited to go out to eat, and I didn't want to because I just had too much stimulation for the day, and I'm just, I wasn't in any bad mood. I was hungry, and I was just too freaking lazy to go back down the 7 floors to the microwave down in the lobby. I mean, it was analytical mind thinking. That's all it really was. It wasn't my day sucks and I'm having a fucking break. No, it was I'm hungry and I'm tired and I don't feel like going back downstairs, so I'm going to get really fucking creative.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
I think one thing that I struggle with overall, and you guys probably are similar to me, is I mean, for a living, we fix shit, right? That's what we do. We try to pick out things that are wrong and we try to fix things. And there's certain things that I think you don't always need to fix. You know what I mean? Like life's not perfect, and I'm not saying like go through life with in an imperfect way, but like I think it's probably not very healthy to look at everything like that's fucked up. That's fucked up. You know what I mean? And that's kind of our job. We walk around like, what's wrong? I need to fix this. This is my step 2
Yeah.
is let's make it right, you know?
And you filter in the input that you're getting, right? I can't really care what's happening in Poland right now. I can't really care what's happening here. It's one of those things like one of the first HVAC jobs I had a paycheck bounce. It would just bounce. This guy would write rubber checks, and you had to get to the bank first, make sure your shit didn't bounce. And my wife flipped out, just absolutely flipped out. We have 4 bounce checks and we have all these fees, and I'm just like, what are you gonna do? It already happened. You can't do anything right now about it. So what is the point of getting upset over it? You know what I mean? It's
Or
basically
kind of piling on more negative feelings and getting upset about it.
you basically prioritize really what's going to fuck up your day. You know what I mean? Like and I have the mentality, like if it's something that you can't control, why get upset over it? I mean, it happened. It happened. It happened. It's not like, you made the decision to get in the car drunk and drive drunk and whatever, and then you smacked in the car and it was all your fucking fault. That's all on you. But if something just happened, like dog got hit by the car because the gate got left open because the wind was like, you know what I mean? No one fucking caused that. It was those sequence of events that caused that. So I'm not going to get upset over that. Yes, it's saddening about the dog, but in the grand scheme of things, it just fucking happened.
See, like now, in that moment, like you and your wife, like what is the differences that you just noticed?
She reacted emotionally, and I'm acting analytically.
Yeah,
I know. No, we've had this conversation. No, I would like, she had Jesse's in the chat. We had Jesse on there. We had her do some mansplaining for us because we were like, why the fuck does this? And she's like, she would explain stuff and just throw it back at us. I was like, fuck, because she
Yeah.
she has the analytical mind brain as well. You know what I mean? On top of being a woman, so she has the emotional side, and then she also has the the estrogen Molotov cocktail, and then she has the the analytical brain. So
For sure. Well, and that's what I was going to say was like the thing that drives that is the language. The language pattern is one of the things that drives whether you're pessimistic about something that happened. If you're optimistic in the sense of saying like, everything happens, like, it just happens. Like, I can't control it, so I'm not going to worry about it. But that's a language pattern. That's a belief in your nervous system. That's like, when something like that, when X, Y, and Z happens that I can't control, I brush it off. But look at somebody that sits there all day and worries about those people in Poland, like you mentioned, that says, oh God, Russia is going to do something, and that they're at work and all they can think about is that, because they do have a pattern of focusing on what they cannot control.
yeah.
They cannot control that, but they sit and they focus on that, and focus on that, and focus on that, no matter what. And then they stew up these same emotions of anxiety, because emotions only come from three things inside of our body: how we use our body physiologically, so our physiology, our posture, our breathing pattern, our smiling, whatever it is, our moving our body, actually how we eat and stuff, our physiology, our focus, and our language. So that focus of I'm constantly focused on, oh God, Russia might invade this, and then this will happen, and World War III might happen. They're going to go through life the whole day with that focus, and they're going to view the whole
out.
lens. They're going to be in a shit mood seeing their kid walks in the room, and they're like thinking about fucking Russia. Kid walks in the room, what do you want? And they just wanted a hug. Where they normally be like, if it's the same person focused on what they can control, will be like, well, I can control right now that, I don't know, the stuff going on around me. Kid walks in the room, hey, what's up, buddy? That's why there's reactive people, non-reactive people. It's what all it is what they're focused on, and the language they use around that situation.
So Austin,
if I could tie into that real quick without derailing the entire conversation, just going back to my personal experience of working with Austin, one of the things I did, and we've talked about it on the show plenty of times, was I would focus on all my problems at work all day long, and one specific person at my company who gave me the most frustration I think I've ever felt in my entire existence. I would focus on that all the time, and I would bring that frustration home, and I would internalize all this negative energy, and I would just bring it home. And I was a complete dick to my wife. I had no patience for my daughter. Everything she did annoyed me because I was already in such a flustered state of mind. So I completely can connect to that statement. That's all. So
real quick, Austin, someone had a question. Do you have a limit to how many problems you can solve with a good attitude? How does that vary, and how do you deal with it?
17.
Limit of how many problems you can solve in a good attitude. So I'm curious if you mean once enough problems stack up, you fall into a bad attitude? Is that the question? Like how many does it take to stack up to finally fall into a bad attitude? How does that vary? Well, if that's the question, to be honest, I don't believe there's anything that you can't deal with a good attitude. Now, is a good attitude mean happy and joyous and yay, look, like my kid died? Fuck no.
Yeah, like delusional.
That's not a good attitude. A good attitude is, what do I need in that moment? Do I need strength? Do I need to be able to be strong for the rest of my family? Do I need to be able to stand up and actually say, you know what? I'm sad and I'm emotional. I'm all these things, but can I know even in a day, in 2 days, in 10 years, that there's a deeper meaning to this, that there's more something to life than just right now. Finding that good attitude. No, I believe honestly you can have a good attitude in anything, but that's your definition of good attitude. What's your definition of good attitude? If it's to be happy, no, like I said earlier, you're not gonna step on a nail and be happy about it. But someone might react very differently, and they're grateful about it. Why are they grateful? Because that dude just noticed, now that I stepped on a fucking nail, I just realized I'm not gonna be able to walk 10 more feet. I'd have stepped on that ground nest of bees, which would have stirred up and killed me. No, he's not gonna be like, I'm so joyous and good attitude about this nail in my foot, but he might be a little grateful that, you know what, I guess that happened for a meaning. I guess there was a reason for that. So no, I don't believe there's any amount of things that can happen to you that you can't solve with a good attitude, as long as you define good attitude the right way.
Yeah, I think people sometimes confuse that with like delusional positivity, where they're like, oh, I stepped on a nail. Oh, that's great. Now I get to go buy a new pair of shoes. Or like, I guess God just wants me to have a nail in my foot. And then I get gangrene. I get my foot cut off. Like, well, now I lost weight because I don't have a foot. So like, that's just delusional positivity. And I think, you step on a nail, you just deal with it, but you don't focus on that the rest of the day. You don't like, I'm going to lose work. I'm going to lose the entire day of work. I'm going to go bankrupt. My whole family's going to starve to death. We're all going to die. Like, God, I go to the hospital. I get it taken care of. Maybe I go back to work the next day. Not that bad.
You know what, Bill, I think I finally understand the question. So like, you had said, you had let things bother you prior. right? You know, you let the guy at work bother you, you let this bother you, you let this bother you, and then you would take it home and distribute that frustration and anxiety on your kids and your wife.
Yep.
You know what, you know, I think that's what the question is. Like, what, you know, what's your breaking point? Like, at what point you're like, positive thoughts aren't going to do fucking shit. 20 fucking things went bad today. You know, like that's what it sounded like to me. I mean, I could be wrong.
I would, you know, and I'm not an expert on this now, but I would venture to say that's more of a, like it varies, I would assume, from
Varies to person.
Like,
yeah,
what your breaking point is. Like, you know, I stubbed my toe and I'm like, fuck, my life sucks. I'm just going to go off myself. And some people stub their toe. I'm like, oh, well, at least I got a wall. Some people don't even have walls in their house, or they don't even have a house, you know? So I think it varies.
And I think that going back to the you know, the self-talk and like positivity, that probably gives you a lot of ammo on how much you can take. You know what I mean? Like
Good point.
when we were talking about that, it reminded me of one of my favorite movie series is Rocky. I know it's stupid, but like that's like one of my Christmas go-tos is watch the Rocky series, you know. It's,
oh man,
I think it's super motivational, but one of the things he said, I think it's in one of the later movies, he said it's not how hard you could hit, it's how many times you can get hit and, you know, keep going or get back up again or whatever. And I think that's kind of like how life is, right?
I'd like to add on to that real quick. One of the things that I always internalize with that, almost that same phrase, I don't know where I heard it from, but it's when you get hit, it's not how many times you get back up, it's how you get back up. What state of mind you get back up in. Like, do you get back up in, like, at least you're getting back up, of course. But for me, it's like, how do you get back up? How do you get back into the fight? Do you come back into the fight with like full on, like, let's get this shit done? Or do you come back like, I'm still here, I'm going to do it? You know, I don't know. Just something like,
I think it was Captain America.
Probably. I think it was Captain Crunch.
Yeah, just Captain Crunch. I mean, honestly, guys, the one thing that gets me through everything is well, there's two things. You have to have an identity about yourself that you'll hold a higher standard for yourself. And for me, that stems from, I don't know how long I have here. I don't know. When I look at my daughter, I don't know if I have her for a day. I don't know if I have her for an hour. I don't know if I'm going to send her off to school and a school shooting happens. I don't know if I'm going to drive home from school, dropping her off, and I get hit by a car. I don't know how many seconds, how many moments, how many things I have. None of us do. And I know that I don't have enough of them to stay in a bad mood. I don't have enough of them to suffer. That took a lot of conditioning, a lot of work. I didn't just go, oh, now I don't suffer anymore. Now I'm fucking good. No, that took some fucking work. And I call that work emotional fitness. Someone doesn't just come up, you know, you got two different people going to, hey, can you run a full marathon? Yeah, but I'm going to be trashed at the end of it. Then you got another guy that's like, yeah, I'll be good afterward because I run Ironmans. Clearly, I could definitely run a marathon and be good. What's the difference between those two people? It's their fitness. What is fitness? It's a state of readiness. How ready can I fucking be to do that task? Well, that's emotional fitness, is emotional fucking readiness. How ready can I be when shit hits the fan? How much time did I take to condition myself to say I'm a strong fucking person? I have the identity of strength. I believe that I can fucking fight through anything. I know that I have the tools, the psychological patterns, the tools, all of the stuff that I need inside of me to switch in any amount of time it takes. At first, it was 9 fucking hours. Now I work on a 90-second rule every day. At 90 seconds, give myself, okay, I had a shit thing just happen. Fucking, let's say my basement flooded, which happened last year. My basement flooded. My furnace was fucking flooded. Everything was flooded. That's going to be a lot of fucking work. And in that moment, I was like, fuck, out loud, really loud. And in that moment, I'm like, I still don't want to be in a fucking terrible mood because it's not going to help me solve this fucking problem. And in a moment, I instantly was like, all right, I'm coming out of this. I don't have time to suffer. I still don't. My daughter's still in the other room. She doesn't deserve to see an angry dad. What if I walk out of the fucking door and get hit by a fucking car? Good thing I was angry about the stuff that happened. So it's all the state of readiness.
And I would say that's kind of like you got hit. Like you got hit, I don't know, kind of bad, you know, with all that shit happening. And then, but how you got back up, how you got back into it was like, I'm not going to let this affect my whole day and bring this toxicity into my daughter's life and ruin her whole day or her week or whatever it is and be a shit dad for the entirety of whatever it takes to get this thing done. So you got back up, you got back into the fight and you're like, yeah, let's get this done. Let's, you know, and it wasn't like, I go back to like, I don't feel like that wasn't delusional positivity. We're like, oh, well, thank God, at least I got a basement, or like, you're delusionally positive. Like everything's so great. At least it's sunshiny. You know, it's more of a, I don't know if I'm explaining it properly, but it's more of a like a logical, positive outlook, I guess.
Well, and it's not necessarily positive. It's just like I think it might be also like you recognize that you're not going to get anything accomplished by being super negative.
100%.
And that's for sure, you know.
That's it.
Yeah.
I know that I have a base of resourcefulness in me. Resourcefulness means no matter what the resources I have, I can create resources because I'm resourceful. Meaning if I have a freaking huge hit and I'm down, oh God, I got a $20,000 fix in my yard or house or whatever it is. It's like, if I don't have it in that moment, I'm resourceful enough to figure it out. And I know that. But that base of identity comes from a base of conditioning my emotional fitness. So in that moment, yeah, then I go, fuck, because my body seen fucking a basement flooded and my body reacted. And then my mind went, hold on, you're resourceful as fuck. Because I've conditioned myself to have that consistent self-talk of you're resourceful as fuck. Not.
Yeah.
It always happens to
me. I would like to add on to that maybe some people listening and watching could relate to this is like somebody else in that same exact situation, somebody who I would consider or put in the category of having a victim mindset, like how they handle that same exact situation because they have no base, no foundation of like inner strength or inner self-talk that would get them out of that in a positive light. Their first initial is like, oh, God damn, everything always happens to me. Why? I can't ever get ahead. I don't have any money in the bank. And this shit happens to me. Last week, my car broke down. Everything just goes bad in my life. I can't ever get ahead. I can't do this. I can't do this. Shit always happens to me. Nothing happens to everybody else. This only happens to me. I don't know why I get such bad luck. You know, completely two different things. And that's exactly what I think people with victim mindsets would handle that or would say to themselves at least.
100%.
A lot of that is upbringing, though, too. I mean, your ability to how to deal with bullshit, right? If
you're a grown man, your upbringing mattered, but you've done things that your upbringing would have never allowed you to do in some people's eyes.
And that was one thing that I had to fight with, like with trying, to have a better relationship with my wife, because like she would say, "Oh, you don't understand how bad my life was." I didn't get a softball trophy or something like that, and and then I tell her, and I'm going nuts inside because I was like, "Are you fucking serious?" Like but it's all relative, right? We talked about this before as well. The amount of if that is the worst thing that's ever happened to you, that is technically the worst thing. That is the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to you, and you can't put that down on anyone. What a fucking pussy. I can't believe like you're getting upset over that. No, that is the worst thing that's happened to you. So it's also about upbringing, like how you were brought up, and your people from like the ghetto, right? They're gonna deal with things. Oh fuck, I'm just gonna get it done. Deal with someone had a silver spoon up their ass. They're gonna react a little bit differently.
I do
silver spoon up their ass. I never heard that one before.
I do agree with that because you're what I call the model of the world. What you view the world through, like that's all created by what you saw originally and then what you saw throughout your whole life. That's an unconscious living, though. Once you become conscious of the fact that okay, my past is affecting me, and these beliefs could be coming from my parents, could be coming from social situations, could be coming from traumas and pains. That's where we become a conscious fucking man or woman and say, all right, moving forward, I can't ever say that those things are my problem again. And that's what I always want to tell someone is, hey, up to this point, if you've been unconscious, it's time to take hold of that and say, all right, yeah, sure, things in my past happened. They matter. Pain fucking matters, and pain is relative. I care if it's a softball trophy or a horrible fucking incident when you're a child. Pain matters. But when you become conscious of it, and it becomes an excuse after that. And that's where I don't believe in like delusional optimism, where it's just like, oh, life is so good. It's like, no, sometimes life fucking sucks, and you have to take pain and use it. Pain is fucking very, very effective if used right, if utilized correctly.
Now, I kind of think like in certain people's upbringings, like my biological father had this victim mentality. Like he couldn't ever get ahead in life because of outside circumstances, apparently beyond his control. Everything wasn't his fault, but everything happened to him. He had bad luck, so he never could get ahead, never could fulfill any promises he ever made. So I grew up like looking at that. But at some point in my life, I think like, I don't know, luckily I realized like that doesn't seem right to have that sort of mindset. And I knew something was off about that. And so I would always view that as like, he always taught me what not to be in life. Like he never taught me anything real good, but I guess you might consider that good, was he was a good example of what not to be in life. And I wonder if some people like never make that connection and they never make that realization. They just look at it like, oh, well, that's how life is. And then they develop their own victim mentality, and then they move into adulthood, and they never recognize these patterns. Or I don't know. What do you think about that, Austin?
Once something is said enough times, you become it, because the strongest force in the human personality is the force to stay consistent with what we say about ourselves. Our identity is 100% shaped by what we say about ourselves. And the reason that is so strong is because, think about it, back in the day. You're a part of a tribe, okay? You're part of a group, a small group, and you're part of a small tribe. You keep saying, man, I know where the deer are. They're over here. And, wow, let's go. We're going to go get the deer. And they're like, no deer here. What's going on? No, okay, tomorrow. They're going to be here. You keep saying it and saying it and saying it. I'm the best hunter ever. I'm the best hunter ever. I know where they're all at. And all of a sudden, everyone's starting to go hungry. Back in the day, the words you said mattered so fucking much because there was only so much to communicate about. Back when the brain was developed and the communication was developed, we started to realize if someone is not meaning what they say, it equals death for all of us. And they pushed them out of the tribe. They got people out of the tribe. We still have that in our nervous system, that we have to say, if I say I'm just an angry person, I'm just always been this way. Our nervous system says, all right, the strongest force in me, the strongest force in my personality is to stay consistent with that. Because if anyone says to me and say, I thought you were a happy-go-lucky guy. You just got a little bit angry just now. Oh God, now you feel like, oh fuck, I'm not good. I'm not good enough. No, that's just an internal thing that happens inside of all of us. So if we consistently say something about ourselves, we'll become it no matter what. That doesn't matter if you want to become it or not. It's just what you'll become. The human nervous system will do that. I'm not speaking to your fucking logical mind here. I'm speaking to the fact that your nervous system will become exactly what you describe it as. Oh, I'm just afraid of heights. I've always been afraid of heights. Remember that one time? They'll even have a lot of past references to make that identity correct. Always. We'll always have past references. Yeah, that's why identity got so.
And not to cut you off, Austin, I was just going to jump in and hog the mic again and say, like, my personal example of this, well, we've talked about this, you and I, is like, I'm just not a happy guy. I don't smile. I'm not happy, go lucky. I'm just not that guy. And like, I've said that to myself. I can't even remember. I know it started way back in school, long time ago. And I just said that enough. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just not a happy guy. I don't smile. I don't feel happiness. I don't exude happiness.
I think there's a word for that. I think it's sociopath.
Yes. I have a graveyard of dead kittens in my backyard. So
all from the microwave. I know. I heard.
Yes. I like to strangle them till their eyes pop out, and then I bury them. I'm like, oh man, I feel so much better. Then I just vigorously jerk off. You know, it's a whole thing. I'm working on myself, guys. So just forgive me about that. No, I don't kill kittens. Just so everybody out there knows. Not yet, anyway.
You know what? Thanks, Bill. I just got a letter from PETA.
Yeah, we're probably not monetized anymore, are we?
By the way, we got yelled at about the kitten shirt, that we're animal abusers.
Like you didn't know that was going to happen.
I was kind of surprised, but
yeah, I'm surprised it took him so long.
Jesus.
But we completely got off that. I'm surprised we stayed on topic this long, guys. I'm proud of you guys.
I'm trying really hard. Like really hard.
That's amazing. We've been good. We're good at this.
We're going places.
See? Man, we are good at this. So I know we've kind of or at least I've been hogging the mic a little bit here. I want to give Austin a little bit of time to just I don't know, generally speak about some things that I don't know you feel are important, whether it be on this topic or another topic or a related topic. Self-talk, optimism. I just want to give you the floor to make sure you have enough time to speak, because I know I've been butting in a lot.
You know me, bro. I can rant all the time. I need to be cut off most of the time, so I'll just sit and rant. I definitely have stuff I'd love to talk about, but let me ask you this: is there anyone either that's listening right now that can throw a question in, or one of the people on the mics right now? Does anyone have a problem they're dealing with they want to talk about? Want to work through something? Anyone got a problem they actually want to see if they can't get a couple tips on, things like that? Because that usually leads into a good topic.
Good conversation.
How do you have a conversation with someone that doesn't think there's anything wrong when there's obviously something wrong? Their inability to be motivated and actually do things, and be a partner and help the other one. How about we talk about that for a little bit? I think that'll ring some bells.
Hmm.
That sounds deep.
But can you make the question more concise?
You have a partner that isn't contributing, or what you think should be contributing to their half of, because it's yeah, you can't be in a good relationship unless you're whole already. But like, there's when you have kids and you're married, there's certain things that you need to make sure everyone is doing right. You have this responsibility, you have this responsibility. Let's get together and get this done. And then sometimes the other partner is just like, no, I'm good. I'm just gonna sit and do this and fuck on my phone and whatever. How do you deal with something like that?
Well, first, I always go back to this. If you're still going to speak of men and women together, men and women solve problems with different filters. We both solve problems very differently. So men solve problems by being very direct, and they want to. Okay, so a masculine solves problems by trying to solve it, shrink it, or forget it. This comes from one of the top family therapists in the world. This is just a simple framework to use that can help anybody in a relationship. Every man, masculine, and also masculine women, but I'm speaking of men here, they want to solve their problems in these three ways: to solve them, shrink them, or forget them. Every woman wants to solve their problems by expressing them, expanding on them, and remembering them. So when honey comes home and says, oh, this at work happened and this happened and oh my God, the guy goes, huh, well, have you tried X, Y, and Z? And she goes, because he just tried to solve it when she was trying to express it. Then she goes, well, yeah, I tried that, but my boss does this and this and this. And he goes, oh, well, that doesn't even really sound that bad. And he tries to shrink it when she's trying to expand it. And then the man says, well, if it's not even that bad, I won't even be there tomorrow. Probably won't be a big deal tomorrow. He tried to forget it. And she's trying to remember it. You just don't understand me. Slam a door. And he's like, I just gave you the solution to your problem and you're mad. That's what every man does that I've ever spoke to, unless he's a feminine man, because he will express, he will expand, and he will remember with her. Now, I'm speaking to a lot of men here that don't want to be feminine. We have to step into a feminine frame to see our woman the right way, though, because if they come at us with a problem. So for instance, what's the behavior? They're on their phone and they're ignoring all things we think they shouldn't ignore. Well, how do we
like housework
that and forget that problem in our own way? When they actually want so badly, why are they sitting there? Because everything a woman does that their partner doesn't like is usually either a loving response or a cry for help, because there's only two forms of communication in the human nervous system: a loving response or a cry for help. You can boil everything we do down to that. Now,
I don't know if I agree with that.
Totally, and I love to dig deeper on that with you, just because I could learn some perspective.
Like, what if you came home and you're at work all day and you have a wife who's basically a homemaker. She doesn't have a job. She just takes care of the kids. She's a homemaker essentially. But you consistently come home and she does nothing. She doesn't cook. She doesn't clean. She doesn't go grocery shopping. She doesn't. And maybe going into and I'm just being somewhat theoretical because I know the background of Brett and Adam here. And if sort of you go into a marriage with this person, you kind of agreed upon these roles, maybe verbally or however you came upon this situation. You kind of I go to work all day, I make all the money. You're at home, but then the man comes home and dishes aren't done, laundry's not folded, kids haven't eaten, there's no food in the house, everything's a mess, and she's just sitting there watching Oprah all day, like Peg Bundy. And you're and then you're I can't work all day and then come home and do all the house stuff. And then I feel that would lead into just a lot of resentment, a lot of a toxic household. So like that, for me, if I was in that situation, like how would I deal with that? I would just come home and be immediately just pissed off. I'm like, God damn it, I can't do all this shit. Like, why are you not helping me?
Well, to be totally fair, if someone's not doing well, one, I always ask people if something you said there was pretty key. Did you actually verbally lay out those roles at the beginning of your relationship? Or was it an intended societal role that you had in your mind that you said, well, women usually do this and men usually do this? Was it actually verbally laid out truly as roles, person to person?
Like maybe they don't actually like being a homemaker and that's why they don't do anything.
If you don't know what they value, you won't know that. So that's why I'm asking, have you actually verbally at the beginning of your relationship truly laid roles out? Hey,
see, you can't fucking do that either. You can't say that either because shit changes. Okay, hold on, stop. Your relationship starts at one fucking point. Okay, you're just getting together with this chick. This is our roles, right? And then you get married, and then the roles change. So you can't just say right in the fucking beginning, this is what you're gonna do. This is what you're gonna do. My wife used to make fucking more than me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Way more than me. So you can't just say that you got to make those rules right at the beginning. No, you can't because shit changes constantly. Kids, problems.
How do you know you get better at anything? You consistently evaluate it. How do you know anything's growing, anything's getting better? You evaluate it. So yeah, absolutely. You'd reevaluate. You'd evaluate. All right, hey, what do we want from our marriage? What do we want from our life? What do we actually truly want out of our day to day? And you reevaluate. So no, that was just a simple question of, hey, have you ever done that at the beginning? But yes, you wouldn't say this is the ground rules for marriage for the rest of our life because life comes in and all kinds of shit change.
It's probably establishing like a line of communication that's not at the time of coming home and being frustrated and be like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, this house is a disaster. That's probably not the time to do it. It's probably like find a calm time, sit down and be like, what's the direction we're going to take right now? Let's what can both of us do to be in a better place? What do you want? What do I want? And because I don't think I found myself doing that too. And like when you get home and you're stressed the hell out, there's not one thing to eat in the house. You get frustrated. You're like, what the crap? You know what I mean? And I don't think you're going to get anything. Nothing positive is going to come from that conversation. Right.
Yeah, but then life gets busy, and then you don't end up ever having that conversation. You know what I mean? Oh well, I'm doing this at this point. Then you never, unfortunately, I guess it would come down to trying to make time and actually having that conversation, but without blowing up. And that's one of the biggest fucking things, right? Because you're like, all right, I know the problem. I know I want to talk about this. I got to go take the kids over here. I got to do this. I got to do that. You know what I mean? So a lot of times it ends up not being talked about, or the frustration of, because I know a lot of people with ADHD, they struggle with remembering to do stuff, and sometimes that that's the factor in it as well.
Gotta write everything down. I get it, brother. I'm all over the fucking place. Like I'm always all over the place with a million things. I have to schedule and write things down. I always tell people, if you don't schedule it, it's not real. It's not gonna happen. So yeah, with kids, with a kids, work, wife, all the fun stuff that comes with life, including all the problems and pains and backaches and flat tires and shit. Yeah, we literally have to schedule it and just make it a priority. Why do we go to work every morning at a certain time? Because we scheduled, hey, we get up at 6 a.m. I put it in my alarm in the morning. I know I get up at that time. So we schedule it. We made it a priority because it would equal a ton of pain if we didn't. We'd lose our job. That's why we do anything. We have to start associating all the pain with that. If we don't approach these and reevaluate in calm states and lay it out, hey, I'm not happy with how things are going, but in a calm, loving state. If we don't do it shit's gonna hit the fan. Sometimes we just try to avoid the moment because it's a little easier, but that stacking effect of those days and days and days and days. I was in a relationship for 2.5 years. It was years ago as the mother of my child, and she didn't do shit. I would work all day. I used to be a heavy machinery mover, a rigger. I used to run heavy forklifts and cranes and put big units in and all kinds of stuff. And come home working, your fucking hands are bruised and rusty and bloody, and you're just like, all you want is a hot meal and a vacuumed floor. And you come home to someone watching The Office on the couch for 6 hours straight, and they've already watched every episode. It's frustrating, absolutely.
That seems very specific, Austin.
Actually,
I thought we were talking theoretical here.
No, see, we all have real world experience in this. I would almost like to add, if you don't make that thing that you're trying to correct a priority, then you just go year after year of like, I don't have time to do that. It's not a priority. I don't have time. I get busy with life. And then, 5 years down the road, you're like, all that toxicity just builds and builds and builds, and you're just miserable. And like, it's just stacking and stacking. You're like, and then you're like, well, fuck, how do I solve this? And it's like, kind of like when you don't take care of yourself physically and you, all of a sudden you're like 600 pounds. And over the last 5 years, you didn't make your health a priority. And then now you're 600 pounds. Like, well, fuck, I got a wedding to go do next month. How am I going to get fit in this tuxedo? I got to lose 350 pounds. It's like, it doesn't work that way. You gotta make it a priority, and it takes time to get through that, to understand it, to reform these relationships and
now you're making me
inner
think.
workings.
I'm supposed to go to Punta Cana in a few months, and I just ate a whole pizza last night. Thank you, Bill.
Fat bastard.
Point right there.
I'm going on the Liver King diet next week. Just gonna eat nothing but meat.
Growth hormone. So yeah, that you made a really good point there, Bill. Why would that tuxedo cause you to reevaluate? Because it's a painful life experience.
Because it doesn't fit.
A high emotional life experience. Whether it's the birth of a child, which is an amazing life experience, where we say, "Oh, I'm fat. I need to fucking lose some weight," or it's the doctor result where they said you're about to have a heart attack. That's where we reevaluate and say, "Oh shit, I do need to prioritize this." We don't prioritize until an emotional event happens. Oh, and last, we consciously say, "What could happen? What happens if I keep resenting my wife? What happens if I don't lay these roles out? What happens if I don't do this?" A future emotional event will happen that'll make you reevaluate. It's usually called divorce papers. That problem, though, is if you even think it's a possibility in the future, then you need to reevaluate today. Reevaluating today to make sure we don't have a fucking nasty pain, because we don't want to wait till life happens to us to make us reevaluate. We want to get out.
And you want to wake up one day and just have this, you're 10 years down the road, you're so unhappy, and you're just like, you just Chris Benoit your whole family because you can't handle life anymore.
Hey, Austin, thank you for that, because I remember to take my blood pressure meds now.
There you go, brother.
But hey, I think we've come to our time. About time to wrap this thing up, guys.
Yep.
Yeah, real quick, do the whole professional thing here. Austin, thanks for coming on the show. It's a fantastic conversation.
Absolutely.
I'd like to have you on again sometime in the future about some the various other topics that we can discuss. I mean, there's so many things that so many holes we can go down.
Sounds good, brother. That'd be awesome. Thank you guys for having me, man. It's been great. Hope you guys got some value. And if you ever have any questions, guys, just reach out.
Anything you want to
If
plug?
you guys want, all the stuff is in the links here. Go look up Austin, check him out on Facebook, find him, call him, whatever you want to do. If you don't, well, that's on you.
Yeah, if you want to be a bum and go nowhere in life.
Yeah.
And eat pizza and then be fat and then go to Punta Cana.
Yeah, like me.
Yeah. If you want to eat pizzas every morning just so you have enough energy to make it through your day, just be like Adam.
Nice.
I'm good at inner self-talk. I'm not good at like boosting up the people around me sometimes. That's why I call Adam fat. But I do it from a place of love and caring because I care about him.
That's how men show they care. They talk shit.
Yeah.
That's true. I do that a lot. I care a lot, I guess.
Yep. By all rights, though, Bill, I didn't realize you were under 200 pounds.
I was. I've gone back up a little tiny bit because I've been trying to find a good maintenance point. So I'm about 210, 215 on most days.
Okay.
Yeah, I was.
At one point,
sorry, Bill.
I was gonna say at one point in my life though, I was 311 pounds, and so I've been up there a bit.
Yeah, I was at like 245 when I left Connecticut, or I'm sorry, right before I left Connecticut, and then I went on a killer diet. I got down to 194, and then I found all that 50 pounds that I lost in Texas brisket.
Nice.
So, brisket will do that.
Yeah. So, all right, Austin.
All right, guys. Well,
thank you for coming on, man.
Absolutely, brother. Appreciate you guys.
All right, see you later, guys.
Fun.
Be all.
Hasta luego.